Hello and welcome to Smith Family Gaming. I'm Zane, your host, and today we're going to be painting up Gandalf with the Watercolors Antitheses line. I think I've gotten the perfect colors I want to get. I think I've got eight different colors paints that we're going to use to try to get a really good effect with him. We're going to see if we can't make him as good as Scale 75 Gandalf. You guys will be the judge of that once I finish. Hopefully I can get it finished in one go. I'm going to try to do my best on it and give a little bit, a little bit different kind of effects here, and let's see what we can get come with it. So let's move it over to the desk and take a look. Before I start, I want to talk about my experience with the airbrush with the Antitheses primer. If you've watched my previous video, you know that I got clogged like instantly. It was much thicker than any kind of primer I'd ever used before. So after that, I was like, well, I need some kind of flow improver, which I had never used or bought because I never had any. Most of the time I did it, worked with my paints, I just thinned it down either with water, or I just, my primers were already thin enough. So I went ahead and I instantly bought some flow improver and off of Amazon, and I also got some 60 milliliter little bottles, and they're gonna work pretty nicely. So basically I did a 1 to 5 part is what I did, and I mixed up basically 10 milliliters of flow improver with 50 milliliters of the primer into one bottle. Tried it over with mixed it up real good, tried it and used it through the airbrush. No clogging, absolutely no trouble whatsoever. I went ahead and I primed this guy up. I used all but one of the primers. I didn't use the warm gray is the only one I didn't use, but I went ahead and I used the gray, cool gray, and then I went over that kind of in a zenithal for a white, which I probably should have done something a little differently, but that's all right. And then I went over with the ivory, since this guy's a skeleton, on his bone like areas, because we're going to try out that bone color, because I did not like the way this turned out, and so we're going to try to put it over the ivory, which already has kind of a yellow tint, and hopefully get more of a bone color, because right now looking at this skull with just kind of over the grayish and or white, it almost looks like a lighter skin color, which is fine. It's just don't call it bone if it's not bone. When I think of bone, I think of kind of a yellowy bone color. Maybe it's supposed to be a brand new bone that just ejected itself through somebody's skin. I don't know. Anyway, basically this one looks more of a yellow skull bone color than this one does. Or not that one, sorry. Than this does. But like I said, maybe with the ivory undercoat, it will make it look drastically different. We'll find that out on another video. Right now, we're going to talk about Gandalf, and we're going to work on the colors that we got. The colors we got are, we're going to do emerald. Regular emerald for his pommel on his sword. We've got leather. Take a guess where those go. And we got wood. Once again, let's take a guess where that goes. And then we've got two blues. We've got the sky, and marine. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a 1-to-1 for his cloak and hat, of the two blues, and then we're going to do a 2 sky to 1 part marine for his robes. We've got pale gray for his beard, and then we've got 2 skin colors, dwarf flesh and elf flesh. Dwarf flesh for the darker recesses and lighten it back up with this elf flesh at the top. So first off, I'm probably going to go with, I'm going to use a, see what I got here, number 1, probably a little bit. I'm also using a wet palette, which I didn't use with the instant colors because I thought that they were already plenty thin enough. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with, I'm not going to do the emerald first, obviously. I'm going to do a mixture also of the leather and the wood for the boots and maybe even the scabbard being a slightly different color. I haven't decided yet if I want the scabbard to be a different color than his leather pouches. I think I might, so I might kind of either thin it out with some medium or something else and do something different. So why don't we go to the parts that's going to be the most mess, and let's do the blues. And then from the blues, we'll go to the leather. Normally what I like to do is I like to do the hard spots first. I like to do, I like to do the pouches and all the stuff that's kind of in the bad areas, and then, oh man, that stinks, and then I'm going to come over and then I'll do the blue because it's a nice big area. I can go a little bit quicker. I only have to go around so many things. When I put the darker color on, then I've got to, or when I do the smaller areas, I got to be much more careful not to get it into my blues and everything else. So I might go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go with the leather first. Why not? We're going to go ahead and squirt out a little bit of this, and then we're also going to get the other wood color. So I'm going to start out with the leather, and we're going to get all the leather pouches, all this other stuff, and a nice leathery color. And I'm not dragging off a lot, not loading up my brush very much, so I don't really have to be quite as dainty about wicking off my brush as I've done before, because it doesn't seem to it's not quite as wet as the Antitheses is. Oh, probably should have whipped off a little bit off of there. Problem is, it's hard for you guys. Oops, see? Right there. I got a little bit where I didn't want it, so we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of wet, damp brush on there. Get a little bit of that. Pull it right off. Kind of the similar kind of thing that we did with the instant colors. If I got it where I didn't want it to go, I just kind of wetted it down. Don't freak out. Just stay calm. Get it on there. Got a little bit there too. we won't worry about that little bit right there, because it is on partially on the pommel and on the metal area that I will go over with the metallic paints. So just like I did with instant color Gandalf, I am not gonna try to do their non-metallic metal look with this color. With the instant color, I'm just going to go ahead and try and get the I'm just going to use some metallics. I will use the metallics that I have from Watercolors, which is fine. I've got a gold and a bronze and a pewter, and that'll work just fine for the sword and everything else. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit more in a couple of areas where I want it to be just slightly darker and very similar to, you know, the same kind of process and stuff I did for instant colors. Got a little bit there too. Gosh darn it. Be careful, Zane. I want to... Oh, man. Don't freak out, he says, and then what does he do? He puts a whole bunch on it. You gotta watch out for this guy. The joke at work now is that I'm a YouTube sensation. And so, yeah, I play into that quite a bit. Now that I'm a YouTube sensation, you know, you guys are all peasants and on and on and on and on. I don't need you guys. You're all just a bunch of peasants, and my 22 subscribers, I'm just a... One day you'll be just as good as I am. But all kidding aside, I do hope that you guys are enjoying the videos and either learning something or just having fun watching me paint, which I doubt it. Maybe my views and thoughts aren't too bad. I don't know. I'm hoping that you enjoy it a little bit. Now I'm going to got the leather pieces done in that color. I'm not real happy with that color. It's almost it's a really light orangey leather, and I guess, I mean, that's fine if that's what you're going for. Me, I think when I think leather, I think a little bit more of a darker leather color. But that's fine. We're gonna, you know, I'm a little disappointed because the leather on the other Gandalf is quite a bit darker, so I am half tempted to... don't really want to screw it up at this point, but I'm half tempted to go ahead with a little bit of this wood and take a little bit of it out, thin it down with some of the medium, you know, probably a 1-to-1, and a real thin layer of the darker on top of it, and maybe get a different color itself. I don't know if I really want to do that though, because if I don't like it, then then that's all there is to it. That is one kind of drawback to this, is that this kind of paint, the contrast paints that I could see, is once you've done something, you better be happy with it, because that's that. You know what I mean? You can maybe go over it with another darker color, but I don't know that you will ever get it exactly. You know, it's not like regular paint. Oh, well, I don't really like that shade of red. I can, you know, go back over it with, you know, a different red and build it back up and change the color completely back to a different red. Or I could change it, you know, over from that to a purple, or even a yellow if you absolutely wanted to. Yeah, you're gonna have to put a bunch of coats to go over yellow, red, or go over red with yellow, but it can be done. And it would take quite a while, but I don't think you could ever get any of these contrast paints to go over something that you've completely done and get it back to a a totally different color. I don't think it'll work exactly like that. I'm not willing to try it right now either, so there's that. So I'm mixing a little bit of the wood and the leather here to see kind of, you know, what I want for the scabbard. And I think I'm going to go with this here. I'm going over this another time. I'm not certain that that's the way you want to do this paint. I think you just kind of want to let it sit, and if you're going to go back over it, definitely let it dry completely, because I think that may be some of my brush stroke problems with it, is that I go over it when it's still wet and it's actually taking a little bit of that previous coat off with it, which, you know, is something you can do with regular paint, and I imagine just the same. I didn't have very much trouble with that with the instant colors. I mean, they dried like super fast, which was kind of nice, but you know, these take just a little bit longer to dry, and it might be a little bit better, wiser to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to wait. I may come back here and make it a little bit darker here or here, you know. I still got it. It's a nice wet palette and everything else. I'm not real sold on the leather. I don't know that I like that color. I don't mind the scabbard. I kind of like that. That's pretty good there. Nice color for me, I think. Well, let's mix up for his shoes. So I did about a about a 2-to-1 ratio, I think, on the scabbard. It might have been like a little bit more than, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go slightly different color for his shoe here. That one, nope. Nope, it's not much of a difference there. So we're going to thin that out, take that back off. And we're going to go a little bit darker. One more shade darker here. Maybe 1.5 more shades darker there. It's not quite that wood brown, but it's also not super light like that last one was. So now on Warcolor's webpage, where I bought this thing, it says just kind of splodge it on. And that's what you're supposed to do. And that's what I did last time. I kind of just splodged it on. And this time I'm wanting to try to get a better effect with it. And so maybe if I don't splodge it on, I can get a better effect on it. And that's what I'm hoping for, because it's not that I didn't like what I got out of it before. I felt like I could do better with, you know, the majority of the paint line. You know, I don't have to be like, well, I got to use this because I don't have this, and blah, 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 blah. But I also figured, I think if you took your time a little bit, instead of rushing through it and trying to get it done, I got it done in 30 minutes. Because I think I got it done, you know, roughly around 30 minutes. That if I took my time at it and, you know, like I did scale 75 Gandalf, and yeah, it was quicker than I would be doing it regularly. I mean, I'm not the fastest and I don't have a lot of time. So, there's that. That I could make it look better. So we're hoping that I can still do that, make it look better while taking my time. So we're going to let his, I want to put a little bit more on his shoes here. And we're going to let that dry a little bit and then come back over it. That way I don't do that kind of stripping effect there. While we're here, we'll take a dark brown and we'll bring that on, well, the wood color. We're going to bring the wood color on the wood. So I do like this wood color. It's a nice color. I mean, it does look like wood. The skin color, and with the skin color I'm going to go with the dwarf flesh first, and then we're going to move up from that to the elf flesh. So let's put out a little bit. Oop, a couple drops, more drops than I planned on. Kind of came out a little bit faster than I thought it would. And here is the elf flesh. Elf flesh is about like 3 shades lighter. Yeah, a drop of something probably from the water. My water cup's kind of icky, so you clean it out. So we are going to go, and we're going to go with the darker over the whole thing, all the skin colors, or all the skin areas, I mean, and then we'll come back and highlight it in the areas that I want to be lighter with the elf flesh, and hopefully get a nice effect. I know you can go over it, but like I said, it doesn't completely change the color of it. We did this the first time with more color Gandalf, and then I did it with the instant color Gandalf. So I believe that it'll still be able to use and change the color enough for exactly what I'm looking for, which is just a little bit of highlighting. Basically kind of on the knuckles, on the cheekbones, on the nose. A slightly lighter color. I mean, I know this is supposed to kind of do it its own, but, you know, and it is. but Gandalf's not a dwarf. And he's not an elf. And there's not really a mid-tone in this color. And maybe I could mix the two together and get closer to what I want. And that's what I'm trying to do without mixing them exactly. I'm just going to highlight a little bit with a little lighter of a color and think that that will really help out. Now, once again, I'm going to tell you guys I did somewhat zenithal this. Like I said, I didn't really know what would be the kind of the medium tone, whether I should have used the warm gray or the ivory was the other two primers I had. And I want to say that the I could have maybe used the warm gray as the like you would normally on a zenithal as the black, and then went up from there to the cool gray, and then to the white. Or maybe I should have started out with the cool gray first, and then, I mean, basically all I did was cool gray and then the white over the top. And to me, I mean, just like any kind of gray primer, it's not a real dark gray. It's really close to being white, in my opinion. I mean, it's just a few shades closer to gray than it is to white. So, face, I need a little bit more right there. Separated a little bit. Not separated, but highlighted a little different than I wanted it to. Okay. So we're getting somewhere here. So we've got his skin. Now I think it looks pretty dry. Now I'm going to go ahead, and I am going to use a little bit of the medium here, because I do want that. I don't want that light to be, I want it to be kind of transparent a little bit for that elf flesh. So we're going to put a little bit of that. Yes, it's Instant Colors acrylic medium. I mean, don't be a jerk about it. Oh well. Scale 75s. I don't have watercolors, so I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. There, acrylic medium's acrylic medium, right? That's what I'm thinking. So we're going to add about 2 small little blobs of it. This I may want to wick off a little bit. Let's see. Just to give a little bit extra highlight here and there. It might be a little much there, but also if it is, then you know what? I can hope that the contrast paints do exactly what they're supposed to do and highlight, highlighted areas are supposed to stay highlighted. So we'll see. And we're going to add a little bit right there. That is still kind of wet, but it's not overly. Go a little bit more on his fingers. I think we need to do the entirety of his fingers. Well, not the recesses of his fingers. Let me rephrase that, but I think it made it his regular, made it almost too dark. And that second little bit of color there will help out a little bit. There we go. See, now it's looking pretty good on that area there. On his face, it's not a lot. Like I said, I don't really need a lot on it. Just want his nose basically and his two cheekbones to be a little bit lighter than the rest of what we got going on around it. I think I accomplished that. Okay. Now, then we're doing that pale gray on his beard. Beard end hair. Let's phrase that right. All right. Listen to me hum, because you don't have a choice. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, Winter Wonderland, you are correct. That's what that tune is. Alright. Now see, I probably should have wicked off a little bit there. It did get on there really thick. But, like I said, I think that might be alright for this gray. I might want it like that. Alright, now the last two spots we're going to get it real nice and sharp. Put just a teeny bit in there. Now let's get those. Gandalf's supposed to have two bushy eyebrows, and if you read The Hobbit, they are bushier than his hat. I think the says it stuck out from the brim of his hat. Now, if his either he didn't have a very long brimmed hat, or his eyebrows were outrageous. I mean, you got to go in and like do something about that if that's the case. I mean, that's scary. Having eyebrows, you know, freaking, what is that, like a freaking 8 inches long? I mean, no, if you were, you know, an actual scale, that'd be crazy. You ain't picking up, well, I guess he ain't picking, Gandalf's not really, you know, picking up chicks anyway in the movies or books. He's just going around being a badass, killing stuff, destroying stuff, taking on a freaking Balrog. While Frodo walked. Alright, that might be a little understatement there, but you get what I mean. Okay, so I think, well, first off, I need to remember that I was missing a little bit of brown. Here. And up here just a little bit. Oh, and right in there. Now, I did this kind of same thing with the other one. I wanted the indentions to be just a little bit darker, so I'm going to go back over them with just a little bit more to kind of try to really get it like it's some real dark recessed stuff, dark areas of this wood. There's a little bit of paint right there. Yeah. I do kind of like that wood. It looks pretty good. it looks really kind of polished, more so than Gandalf scale color. Instant color Gandalf looks a little bit more muted, a little bit more sanded, but not polished. I think I'm going to go with the 2-to-1 first on the blue. We're going to go, do his light blue first, and then do the dark blue. I'm not going to worry about getting it too close to the other blue color, because I figure since the other one's darker, it should go over it easily enough. And most of those will be kind of a recessed area where the two meet together, and sometimes you can kind of get away with just putting a little extra paint in an area like that and not being able to see it that much. So that's what we're going to go with there. We're going to cheat. I mean, if it works for the New England Patriots for so many years. Ooh. Any Patriot fans are now definitely not Smith Family Gaming fans. Oh, that's okay. If you're a New England Patriot fan, I don't need you. My 22 subscribers are way better than having 100,000 Patriot fan subscribers. Yeah, probably gonna have to edit that stuff out too. Nah, I don't care. I'm just being a jerk. Not a fan of Tom Brady. But what does that have to do with painting? Nothing. Doesn't have much to do with anything, really. So if you guys are enjoying my videos and like what I'm doing, go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Leave some comments. Even if they're horribly mean comments about how horrible I am and God, your painting sucks. All sorts of stuff. I know there's a bunch of trolls out there. I figured, I'd get a bunch of trolls being, on here and everything else. And so far, nobody said anything. Or hardly anybody has. And everybody that has been pretty nice, which was kind of surprising. I guess the haters don't come out until you become famous, and then everybody's like, screw that guy. Is that how that works? No, I don't know. I'm just kind of being silly now. Okay, so I went over with about a second coat. I didn't really like where I had gotten some of this on. It looked like it was a little thin in areas where I didn't want it to be thin. So I went over a little bit. We're still kind of working on getting it. I am doing a little bit more, just kind of splodging it on than I do with the instant colors. But it's hard for me. They told me to do it, okay? Watercolors told me to do it, and now I have a hard time not doing it. Hopefully people are enjoying my videos, and hopefully I'm helping at least a couple of people out and going, hey, that's really cool. I'd like to try that out. Or, man, I kind of like what he's saying about, this and that, and think these paints are pretty good. Or, hey, look, that unboxing of that kind of really showed me what was coming. It was kind of nice to see what I should be expecting when I get one of these, or this or that, or my one video of tutorial on how to play a game is helped you play a game. I'm working on it. Get off my back. Like I said, it's hard for my wife and I to get time from the kids to sit down, record a video while the baby's, not yelling at us about one thing or another. And you get everything said just right. A tutorial, you would think, oh man, that's pretty easy. I could explain how to play that game easy enough. Yeah, when you start recording, it's definitely not as easy as you thought it was. Let me promise you that. Okay, so let's not go, oh, I could do that, and then when you've never actually tried. Because I was right there at the same kind of thing. Oh well, that's easy enough. And then I was like, okay, nope, sure wasn't. Normally we do a pretty good job at the when we used to have game night all the time, which COVID kind of ruined all that, didn't it? Yeah, for a little while at least. I'm not too worried about it anymore. It seems like it's on the downward slope. Still not taking any chances. My family is utmost importance to me. So I did go over a little bit of this a little bit more. Like I said, I wanted it to be a little bit darker here and there, and maybe I shouldn't be going over it a second time, but to me it seems like it needed to be just a little bit darker. It should still separate down and get to where we want it. So that's the next color done, and then we're going to go ahead and get that other color blue. A while back on Kickstarter, I think I want just slightly darker than that. I saw I'm always looking for new stuff to paint, even though I've got a backlog that could kill, a small shark, great white shark. But always looking for stuff, and they had this. Obviously, I'm Lord of the Rings fan. We can tell that. They had this awesome miniature of the Hobbit from Bilbo, actually, from the original cartoon. What were their names? Bass and somebody else, I believe, is what they were called. And they did a bunch of different movies around in the late 70s, early 80s. They did quite a few, and I really liked the Hobbit one when I was a kid. That was what led me to the Lord of the Rings, and to like the movies and like the books, and go from there. So I dedicate that pretty much. My love for Lord of the Rings came from seeing that movie when I was just a wee one. So, and I remember seeing it on TV all the time, and it was just, the artwork and everything, I loved it. And it was a model of Bilbo, and it looked excellent. And I don't know what that was about, but it didn't get funded. They wanted like $85 for it. I don't even remember what size it was or whatever. I imagine it wasn't legal exactly. I doubt that they had the They didn't say anything about having, and I asked before I even pledged any money. I was like, so, is this, you guys got the rights, or am I going to get in trouble for buying this? I mean, I don't know how that all works. If you make artwork, if that's artwork, and it looks like, something you've seen before, is that copyrighted? Or, I mean, I don't know how that all works. So, anyway, it didn't get funded. I'm kind of disappointed because it looked, and I was hoping that they would do more and be totally amazing, but we didn't get that. So maybe somebody else, Broken Toad and Black Sun, I think is the name of it, Black Sun Miniatures. They did a Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, which I missed, which I'm very upset about. But it is what it is, I guess. I kind of maybe went a little too dark on that one. On this blue. Oh well. My wife will probably hate it, but too late now. Me personally, I like a darker blue, but that is too bright of a blue, I guess. Not exactly the blue I was going for. And if you think I'm going to paint white over this entire model, over this entire part of this model, you got another thing coming. I'm just going to be happy with what I got. It's not exactly what I was going for, but maybe when it dries it'll look different. That's part of the thing with this stuff. It does look a little different. One thing that I noticed that I like about this paint, oh gosh darn it, no, I did get it all over his beard. Wasn't, there we go. There we go. That could have been a catastrophe, guys. What it looks like in the bottle is what you get on the palette. That's what you get on the model. That's the color it is. That is a step up from all the other contrast paints that I've seen. I mean, most of them you get this color. Oh, well, that looks like it's going to be a nice dark brown. Nope, it's a red. Or, or something on similar. Oh, that looks like a dark blue maybe. Nope, it's a green. That sort of thing. So, I do like that about it. There are other things I like about it too, but we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get on to my review of the paints themselves, which will probably be in the next couple, hopefully in the next week or so. Well, we're almost done, guys. We've got just a little bit more blue to go on, and my teeny bit of emerald, and then we're going to be done, guys. Basically what I'm getting at, Broken Toad, when I was talking about that earlier, is if by chance you stumble across this, in a drunken thing, and you're like, hey, that looks like that guy knows what he's talking about. Let's watch his video. And you stumble across my video somehow, and you see me talking, and you're like, hey, you know what? I remember those too. Those were a good movie. We should definitely make those into models. Yeah, do that. Do that. Franklin Bass, I think, is what it was. Definitely, yeah, look into doing that. I would buy a bunch of them. I mean, Gollum, Gandalf, Bilbo, spiders, goblins, Goblin King, even maybe, I don't know. Yeah, it was just such a visually stunning, and there's other ones too. Okay, there's not just that. There's The Last Unicorn. There's Flight of Dragons, which was okay. Wasn't fantastic. I'm going to try to get it on thick and in one solid looking coat. That way, hopefully, because it was, maybe should have thinned that out a little bit, because it was definitely looking like I had brush strokes in it really bad. And we're trying not to do that, guys. Especially on the back side here. Put it on nice and thick. And it should theoretically thin itself back down. Still keeping the highlighted areas highlighted. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Yeah, we're going to do the same thing here, and I did with Instant Color Gandalf, and we're going to darken up the areas where these two blues meet quite a bit. That way there's a stark difference between the two. All right. Okay, we're on to the last color here. Got this last bit of color, which is just this emerald on the pommel, and then we're gonna put on some metallics, and I'll put on I'll come down and I will show. I might do that on off camera, but the metallics off camera. Let this dry up just a hair. Oh, looks like I got a little bit of blue on my leather here. Let's try to cover that back up. There we go. Okay, so I made got Gandalf all dried up here, and he's slightly different than scale 75 Gandalf. So there's quite a bit of a difference. Okay, so there's quite a difference between the two. Definitely Warcolor Gandalf over here is much brighter. He's got a lot of brighter colors. I think I may have messed up on his hat slightly, and maybe his back of his cloak, by putting too thick of a layer on of the paint, because I didn't get a lot of contrast like I wanted it to. The rest of it looks pretty good. It is definitely much brighter, and I don't know, I mean, I like them both, but I think that I actually like Scale 75 Gandalf better because he looks a little bit more realistic. Well, while this one, I showed a picture of it to somebody else when I did it before, and he said, you know, it kind of looks a little cartoony. And it does. It looks a little cartoony. But that's not a bad thing, because, you know, vibrancy is good also. And if you want something nice and bright, depending on what you're painting. For instance, this might be a great paint for Marvel Crisis Protocol, because I'm looking for that kind of comic booky look. You know, real bright, highly saturated colors and everything else. I mean, he does look sharp. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do like the way he turned out. I took my time on him. I'm disappointed in the blue for his hood and hat. Everything else looks pretty good. I think I might have added a little bit too. I gotta do a little bit more practice with this sort of stuff. It's a little different. The hat doesn't look very good. Okay. Roland's telling me that the hat doesn't look very good. So it's what? In his cloak? In his cloak. So there's that. So I'll put a link in the description for my IMGUR account and do a side-by-side view of Watercolor Antitheses Gandalf and Instant Color Scale 75 Gandalf, and you guys can decide what you guys think, which one you like a little bit better. Let me know in the comments section and we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.